It sucks to be a white American.
I have never been more disappointed as a white woman. I have been deconstructing a lot. I have been deconstructing the Mormon faith that I grew up in, but not only that, I've been deconstructing my own white culture. And what I've come to realize, and that's been honestly probably not a huge surprise to anyone else, but for me it was a huge surprise to realize and learn that white culture is racism. White culture is white supremacy. How did I grow up not knowing the names of people like Emmett Till, of people like Solomon Northup, of people like, I did learn about Harriet Tubman, but you know, she was pretty mainstreamed, Rosa Parks, Martin Luther King, Malcolm X. All three of those, Rosa Parks, Malcolm X, and Martin Luther King, I was taught growing up. Like, for example, Malcolm X, he's a rioter. Martin Luther King, he wasn't good. He was a plagiarizer. He plagiarized his work. What? What? And back then, hearing it, be like, oh, yeah, okay, yeah, he doesn't deserve a whole day to himself. He was quintessential for changing the civil rights movement.
America cannot tell the truth about herself. If the history of this country were written, you would have to say that this country is a nation of thieves. It began by stealing this country from the red man. If I said to you that Christopher Columbus discovered America in 1492, you would say that's correct. But now here come this honky from Spain. There are already non-white people here, and they're not existing until he comes and discovers them. Ain't that something?
America's identity is not freedom. If you're always going on and on about how America is the greatest country on earth because it's so free and we're always trying to spread freedom, you need to calm down. America is and has always been about two things: profit and white supremacy.
This country was not built on freedom. It was built on theft, genocide, slavery, and silence.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. I hope you guys are doing amazing. Thank you so much for clicking on this episode. I really do appreciate your love and support on this channel. So I just happened to come across this video of this Caucasian man who is talking on how white people think, and you know, even explaining to them as to why they are oppressors or born with the skin color of the oppressors, and even wishing and hoping that someday the oppression that other people go through or them seeing as oppressors will be taught in history class, and he still have hope that there will come a day that it will change where, you know, black people or all white Americans will come and admit that black people deserve reparation. And listening to him, this is a very controversial topic, and even him coming out and talking about this, I really do appreciate him, because I think for him to talk about this and another white person who doesn't necessarily think like him, or any other white person from America that don't think black people deserve reparation, it would probably change their mind after listening to this guy. He even goes on ahead and explain how white culture is meaningless to the society, and he gives a deeper explanation as to why. And it's because we all know real culture is tied to shared experiences, not just skin color. Cultural identity comes from shared history, traditions, language, struggles, etc. And when you come out here and say about white culture, also, to me, it does not make sense. We have white people from Poland, we have white people from Sweden, we have white people from America, we have white people from different parts of the Western world, and they all share different cultures. I want us to watch these videos together, and I really want to know what your thoughts are on the comments section. If you find this conversation helpful, share it with your friends and loved ones so that they also get to learn about this. I want us to dive right ahead and watch these videos together. Every clip and every stitch that you'll be seeing on our today's episode, credits belongs to the original creators of these videos that you're seeing on your screens. This episode is for education purposes only. So let's just dive right ahead and we'll come back with more commentary.
It sucks to be a white American. Now hold on, give me a chance, let me explain. I want you to think of the kind of person who would put on a White Lives Matter sticker on the back of their Ford pickup. Why do they do that? Is it all racism? Well, yeah. But I think it goes a lot deeper than that. White Americans basically have no culture. Not in the same way we see other people. And we white people, we know this inherently, and it scares us. We know we have our regional cultures. Our cities, our sports teams, and families all give us our regional culture, but being white basically means nothing, or generally at least nothing positive. White people throughout American history are almost always seen on the side of the oppressors. Not all white people, but most of us. And this sucks to learn. It's even harder to internalize. And it's why white people usually don't accept this, because it makes us feel a deep sense of guilt. I think it's why white people say nonsense like, I can't be racist, I have black friends. Sure, you probably don't see black people as objects, but you're refusing to accept the role our people have had in their oppression. That guilt we feel is our responsibility for the actions of our ancestors. It's why white people refuse to say that black people deserve reparation, because it admits our guilt. But black people deserve reparations. It just makes sense logically. You can sue someone for scratching your car, but black people can't sue the American government for the enslavement of their people. My people are arresting and deporting Mexican families from this country. Think about that. We are telling people that they are not allowed on the land we stole. Let's go a step further. White people stole a sacred land site from the people indigenous to this land and then carved 4 white people's faces on it, most of which were slave owners. I mean, Mount Rushmore is a place that we look at and we're like, oh cool, giant faces. But to other people, it's a giant form of oppression, and admitting that and coming to terms with that sucks. We suck, dude. My people really and truly suck. Not all of us contributed to this oppression, but we are all a part of it. And this will mostly sound like virtue signaling. It will mostly sound like, look at how rough we are. But there is a reality to admitting this guilt and being honest with it. Because white people are afraid to do this. And we're afraid to admit it because my people are weak. White people are weak. We have power we have given ourselves and put down the cultures that are stronger than us because we know that we're weak. If white Americans were oppressed the same way black, native, or Mexican American people are, we would crack like glass. Our culture and identity as white people is so meaningless that we do everything in our power to keep other people down so that we don't break from having someone else on top. I think that's why you see white Americans championing white pride, not just out of ignorance or racism, but it's because they are scared. They're scared to come to terms with their guilt, scared to admit they're wrong, and terrified to acknowledge that we may have all the societal, economic, and political power, but as a people we are weak. But this isn't the way it has to be forever. I have hope that one day my people will finally take responsibility for what we have done. I hope that we'll collectively accept our role in the oppression of our non-white brothers and sisters and finally take action. And it will take the action of us white folks. It's not just non-white people that have to fight for their rights. It's us too fighting for them because our cross to bear is being born white. Being born with the skin color of the oppressors means that we have to fight to be nothing like them. We're not near that right now. America is in a tumultuous stage where it very much does not feel like white people are acknowledging where they went wrong. But I want to have hope, and I refuse to accept that one day justice won't prevail. Collectively, we can all shed the shadow of oppression and share this place together. And that's the message I want to end with. I want to be hopeful that one day oppression will be something taught in history class, you know? Something that we don't have to see ourselves in. That's what I hope. Anyway, I want to be optimistic in the end. Anyway, that's it. Thanks.
I have never been more disappointed as a white woman. I have been deconstructing a lot. I have been deconstructing the Mormon faith that I grew up in, but not only that, I've been deconstructing my own white culture. And what I've come to realize, and that's been honestly probably not a huge surprise to anyone else, but for me it was a huge surprise to realize and learn that white culture is racism. White culture is white supremacy. How did I grow up not knowing the names of people like Emmett Till, of people like Solomon Northup, of people like, I did learn about Harriet Tubman, but you know, she was pretty mainstreamed, Rosa Parks, Martin Luther King, Malcolm X. All three of those, Rosa Parks, Malcolm X, and Martin Luther King, I was taught growing up. Like, for example, Malcolm X, he's a rioter. Martin Luther King, he wasn't good. He was a plagiarizer. He plagiarized his work. What? What? And back then, hearing it, be like, oh, yeah, okay, yeah, he doesn't deserve a whole day to himself. He was quintessential for changing the civil rights movement. Watching Solomon Northup's 12 Years a Slave was probably the hardest thing I've ever done. Watching the Nottoway plantation burn and see my palm-colored relatives say, oh, how sad, oh, it's gone. After learning what happens on those plantations, especially after the 12 Years a Slave, what do you mean you want to celebrate love and eternity and marriage on a place that was so heavily focused on hatred and ownership and torture and rape? I mean, I also I watched on YouTube Unseen Memoirs and Unseen Memories back when in the 20s, when they went the last generation of born slaves, born into slavery individuals, and they would stake them down, each arm, each leg, so you can't curl and whip them. But not only that, as if completely shredding their back open isn't bad enough, they're gonna go ahead and sprinkle salt on top and let you fry there in the sun. And most of the time, you end up not making it. You die from getting beat to death. Now, my ancestors, during that time, were creating a cult. They weren't rich enough to own slaves, so they tried to scam their own color, and they created a cult that is now the Mormon Church. Still very widely successful today. Yes, Joseph Smith is in these veins, unfortunately so. The Mormon Church on its own is so heavily racist. The fact that Joseph Smith allowed black people into the church, and then all of a sudden, why not take black people's money too? You know, like, of course, but then they took that back and said, well, you can't get all of it. And it's just like that in America, from our healthcare system to every single thing. Voting, everything. You've seen that here in Atlanta with the issues of people not able to go and vote. Like, how dare we do that to them? This Nottoway plantation, it blew my mind that people that are still living in that area can track their ancestors back to that plantation, and to think that there are people having weddings there, that is not. I would be there every weekend fucking protesting if those were my ancestors. Like, what do you mean you are celebrating? If that happened to me and my ancestors, I would want to burn it all down. The whole acre, all of it. And the wealth. Because you know who really deserves that land? The people who made the money from it. The people who built it. The people who cultivated it. Not the people who whipped. We give Native Americans land. Where is their retribution? And it's up to us as white women who are deconstructing the patriarchy and breaking away from our ties to the white man to say, hey, that's not appropriate. That is racist. What you are doing is racist. That's a microaggression. Whether you want to think so or not, what you're saying is not appropriate. 13th, that movie, Khalif Browder, how he sent that man to hang himself because he wouldn't take a plea off of something he, poor child, knew he didn't do. I need more resources. I need more education. I follow the White Woman Whisperer and Knitting Cult Lady. I love them. I'm deconstructing my white privilege, and I need help. I need more resources. I am so ashamed. I have so much guilt and shame when I see my people online sad that, like, Shyla Hendricks. Oh, what the fuck? What do you mean? What? Are fucking racist. White people, the only culture we have and that we know is racism and colonization. That's all we know. That's all we know. And that's so sick. It's fucking disgusting. And I hate that I'm 30 years old and just now.
America's identity is not freedom. If you're always going on and on about how America is the greatest country on earth because it's so free and we're always trying to spread freedom, you need to calm down. America is and has always been about two things: profit and white supremacy. When I say this, I'm not trying to be ungrateful of the privilege I have having grown up in the United States as the wealthiest country on earth. And I know that there are plenty of countries around the world that have horrible human rights offenses, genocides, poverty, famine, corruption, and so on and so forth. But America is not about freedom, and we have pretended to be about freedom for the entire lifetime of this country. When I think about the Pledge of Allegiance that I was forced to recite in elementary school, middle school, high school, every day, every morning, looking at a flag, placing my hand over my heart, and pledging my allegiance to a country that I didn't really know that much about. We have whitewashed our history and our modern politics and our impact on the world right now so much that most people who get educated in this country have no clue what dark, evil shit we get up to. The FBI archives are publicly available. You can go online and read all about the nasty shit that they did, the relentless spying they did on people that were protesting through the 1960s and 70s, and look at Iraq throughout the 20th century, and then the invasion after 9/11. Look at Israel and Palestine. We're driven by two things: profit and white supremacy. Those are the bottom lines. From the very beginning, when this country was founded for equality for every person, yet we had slaves that built our economy. The first 90 years of this country, for the next 100, black people still did not have full rights and citizenship recognized by the government. We can't even ask to use ranked choice voting in our elections because the current politicians and the political parties are so entrenched in exchanging money for policy and perpetuating the two-party system that leaves the rest of the country, 90% of people, completely fucked by an endless cycle of capitalism. It's all about profit, and it's all about white supremacy, both at home and abroad. And I'm so sick of the way that the United States media and education completely whitewashes that. We can't even have a conversation about communism and socialism because everybody in this country is so fucking scared of those words. They have no idea what they mean. Remember McCarthyism? I mean, how can you have a country that says that it is a free country when you literally have a ringleader blacklisting other politicians just by uttering a word? And that fear of communism and socialism is absolutely still present today. We're so stuck on capitalism and this greed for profit, relentless greed for profit. It will keep us locked in this cycle of raping the earth and exploiting working class people and keeping everybody else divided through the mechanisms of white supremacy. I'm so sick and tired, and I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired of watching the politicians and the leaders fight in every way they can to keep this country exactly on the path that it is. Anyway, that's my hot take for the 4th of July. Fuck this man.
America cannot tell the truth about herself. If the history of this country were written, you would have to say that this country is a nation of thieves. It began by stealing this country from the red man. If I said to you that Christopher Columbus discovered America in 1492, you would say that's correct. But now here comes this honky from Spain. There are already non-white people here, and they're not existing until he comes and discovers them. Ain't that something? All their heroes have been white. They make you bow down to George Washington as your hero. Did they ever tell you that that honky owned slaves? Did he ever tell you that? Yeah. Not only did he own slaves, he sold a black woman for a barrel of molasses, and he's supposed to be our hero. Our hero.
White supremacy is a system, it's not a party. White supremacy is what upholds America. White supremacy exists in the Democratic Party. Those tokens you see on stage is not who actually run the party. Those people are there to keep you disillusioned so you will continue to vote in a specific manner. This is why you will have symbols but no systemic change. This is why they're still studying about reparations for all of these years and with no deadline. At this point, they're just mocking you. Okay. So what happened was the Democratic Party saw that black people were trying to demand quantifiable something for the vote. They wanted reparations, land rights, economic repair, police accountability, anti-discrimination enforcement. And rather than saying, okay, we hear you, we're going to appease you, let's come to the table, they said, no, let's open up the borders and replace that vote, dilute that vote so it doesn't matter. No group of people will have too much power that we would have to surrender what their demands are. This is how crazy the Democratic Party people got you. Is that you over there advocating for the people they tried to replace you with so they wouldn't have to do anything for you. You didn't want to vote for the black woman. That Kamala wasn't damn black until now. Let me not get started. I'ma just say this. See it for what it is and not what you want it to be. Look at the actual proof, okay? You look at democratic cities. They're still heavily segregated. And a lot of them gentrified. If we were concerned about black people, why no more black power in those cities? How do I put this? Lord, okay. No matter what we go through, it cannot be as difficult as what our ancestors have had to endure. The flip side, it is my belief that had the vote gone the other way, black people, their values, their identity would have ceased. That's a strong statement. I'll say this. We know how to weather a storm, and we just got to weather this storm and prepare for next time.
You know, when I came across this video, I just wanted to dig deep and understand. And, you know, people have been saying, or the Caucasian people talking about the white culture, especially in the United States of America. And I just did my own research and I wanted to dig into, you know, is there anything like the white culture? And even if you go and research that, you get to understand that there is no single unified white culture because white is a racial classification, not an ethnicity or culture. People classified as white come from diverse background: Irish, German, Italian, Russian, Anglo-Saxon, Scandinavian, etc., each with its own distinct language, food customs, and traditions. These are ethnic cultures, not white cultures. So you even go on ahead and get to understand that in American or Western contexts, when people refer to white culture in the US, they might mean mainstream or dominant culture historically shaped by European settlers that settled in the United States of America. Cultural norms perceived as neutral or standard, e.g. individualism, Catholicism, Protestant, work ethic, etc. A shorthand for Anglo-American or Euro-American culture traditions. However, these are often systems of power norms, not cultural identities in the way Black culture, Latino culture, or Japanese culture are typically used. You see, like, you find like Black people, especially like in the African content, in as much there are different languages, you get to find that actually our cultures intertwine with each other. But when you look at white, or the thing that they are calling white culture, is quite different from every part that they actually come from. And this is why you find that most people use white culture as a political or ideological concept just to push white nationalists or support supremacist ideologies, as you've heard some people saying or talking about this in this video. You know, I say this is a very huge topic that needs to be discussed, that people get to need to understand. And I know it's very controversial to so many people, and I know some will not even get to understand or take this lightly. So you also get to understand, or if you listen carefully or even go to do your own research and get to learn about what people are calling white culture, you get to learn that white is a racial category, not a culture. Unlike terms like Mexican or Japanese, white describes skin color, not shared language, traditions, or heritage. People labeled white come from many different ethnic groups, e.g. Irish, Italian, German. You'll see a Germany, but he's white. You see an Italian, but he's white or she's white. So this is why you see it's a racial category and not a culture, because when you go to German, they have their own culture. When you go to Italy, they have their own culture. When you go to European Americans, they have their own culture. So that's why people are saying there is nothing as white culture. And this is why you now get to understand that white people belong to many different ethnic culture, Polish, French, that has its own distinct culture, food, music, custom, religion, they are all different. So that's why you also get to understand that we cannot have white culture. All these are ethnic cultures and not nothing like white culture. So when you get to understand or want to know what white culture in the US, it often refers to mainstream or dominant norms. In America, what's called white culture is often default culture norms, e.g. English language, capitalism, individualism. But this is really a result of power and historical dominance, not a cohesive cultural identity, just as to what one of the people that you've seen on this video has explained on why people just want to claim on white culture and claim that as their culture. And you get to understand that even white culture is sometimes used politically. Some white nationalist groups use the term to promote exclusion or racial superiority. And this is not about culture, it's about ideology and power, where we know most of them are really hungry of these. So when we talk about culture or real culture is tied to shared experiences, not just skin color. Cultural identity comes from shared history, traditions, language, struggle, and extra. White people as a group do not have one unified experience or culture. White people have not gone through the same struggles as other people, like black people, by the Mexicans, the Japanese. White people don't share the same language. Every country that you go to German, they have different languages. They have different traditions compared to when you go to Mexico, when you go to Japan, when you come to Africa. So when you talk about white people or white culture not being a culture, you would also ask yourself then, is there something like the black culture? And I want to tell you, yes, there is black culture, though it's very important to recognize that it's not single monolithic culture. Black culture refers to the diverse cultural expressions, traditions, values, and experiences of people of African descent around the world. It varies by religion, history, and context. So you find, like, example by religion, African American culture, US includes traditions like jazz, hip hop, soul food, the black church, HBCUs, civil rights movement, and linguistic styles like African American Vernacular English, AAVE. Caribbean black culture, each island has distinct tradition, e.g. Jamaican reggae, Haitian voodoo, Trinidad carnival, etc. Afro-Latin culture present in countries like Brazil, Colombia, and Cuba, blending African heritage with Latin American elements. Continental African culture, rich and varied, e.g. we have Yoruba from South Africa, Zulu, Akan, Amhara, with their own languages, philosophy, art forms, and spiritual practices. So there is quite a huge difference, because the reason as to why white people, almost Caucasian people, want to come out here and tell us that there is white culture is because they also hear black people saying, about their black culture all over the world, from any corner of the world, that there is black people or melanated people. They have a culture, and most of this culture, they although they are not the same, they always have a way of intertwining with each other. So I went on ahead, and because most Caucasian people are always like, black people do not deserve reparation, which has been a very sensitive topic. And I've seen, and I'm happy to see most Caucasian people coming out and talking and discussing about this. So I want to give you the reasons as to my research and to what I understand and believe as to why black Americans deserve reparation is because slavery built foundational US wealth. For over 250 years, enslaved black people were forced to work without pay, generating immense wealth for white individuals, institutions, and the US economy. No compensation was ever given for that stolen labor for over 250 years, and most people want to sit down and call black American lazy, tell them that they don't have anything, tell them that they don't like working just because they stopped working for free. You see? So black people deserve reparation, because for most Caucasian people in the United States of America, the benefits or the family wealth, generation wealth they have now, or they're enjoying right now, and why you see it's quite easy for, you know, Caucasian people with generation wealth to do better in life compared to black people, is because of the free labor that the enslaved black people put in for over 250 years, and they were never compensated. You also get to learn that after slavery, harm continued, like Jim Crow laws, racial terrorism of black men, voter suppression, and legal segregation systematically excluded black Americans from land ownership, education, and wealth building. This was after slavery. Black people didn't have nothing. They had to start from scratch. Education was not that easy for them. Even like getting to work, owning a land, they didn't have a way of building wealth. So government policies like redlining, which still happens to date, exclusion from the GI Bill, and mass incarceration deepened the inequality. And this inequality is still affecting the black community in the United States of America till to date. You see, when we talk about redlining, when other white folks were going to get loans from the banks, maybe to buy a house, maybe to buy a property, maybe to open a business, black people didn't have this privilege. They were never given this opportunity. Until today, you find that there are banks that will not even give this opportunity to black people, which is quite sad. So the racial wealth gap is still ongoing in today's centuries, and you get to find that today the average white family has 5 to 10 times more wealth than the average black family. So when you say about laziness or black people lack of effort, it's the result of generation theft and systematic barriers that have been put there to make how black American community as it is today. I know it's not all the black Americans. Some are living very good life. Some are very rich, living in one of the richest neighborhoods in America, having one of the most biggest companies and industries in America. But a big population of the black American community is still suffering from what happened back in these days. And I get to ask myself this: if the US paid reparation to Japanese Americans interned during World War II, 9/11 victims' families, descendants of Holocaust survivors through foreign policies deal with German. Why are the black Americans the only major group systematically harmed without compensation? Does that even make sense? This goes on further ahead to show how racism is still so much rooted in America, and how till today is affecting the black American in the United States of America. When I think about reparation, I think it equals justice, and it's not about charity, because when most people explain or think about reparation, they will just be thinking, oh, it's like we're just doing justice to the black American. No, it's a justice from what the ancestors and black American went through and are still going through in the United States of America till today's. So I was looking in some forms of how reparation can take, like they can be direct payments, they can be land, housing grants, tuition, debt cancellation, or community investment that will help the black American rise, will help the black American grow, just like other communities have in the United States of America. I don't know what your thoughts are on the comment section. I know this is a topic that needs a lot of discussion and needs a lot of research for people to discuss and people to learn from this, but it will be great if you can just take it to yourself, go do your own research, especially as a Caucasian American. Go do your own research, get to learn about the black history, because so many times we've seen so many Caucasian people coming on social media, creating videos, showing how ignorant they are, not even understanding the black culture, not even understanding what black Americans are going through. And I'm so grateful that you've seen on this video there is a number of Caucasian people that actually do understand this and are taking a step to teaching their own community. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comment section. Thank you so much for watching up to this part, and until the next episode, bye.